Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Comedy. My name is Gary Michaels and this is a stand-up comedy tutorial channel aimed at new comedians. So if you're starting out in your comedy career, I urge you to hit that subscribe button and join the community. On today's video, I am going to give you my top 3 tips on how you can improve your set almost immediately. Try and listen to the very end, see which tip you like. Hopefully you're going to like all of them and get all 3 tips into your set as quick as possible. Let's get started with number 1. I want you to write an overall message of what your material and character on stage is all about, rather than just continuing to write and create jokes, which is great. I want you to work as well on an overall message. Now, this can be how you genuinely see yourself, or it can be how you fictitiously see yourself. Fictitiously? We'll go along with it. But it doesn't matter if it's real or not, as long as it's humorous, as long as you can get laughs from it. Because not only do I want you to record it and add to it, I want you also to have material in which you're going to describe your overall message on stage. I'll give you an example. If you're a political act, I want you to have a piece of material that you're going to say on stage that's going to come to the presumption that when you perform your material, no matter what political side you are on, you're all going to be united and we're going to live together because the message you have to say is so amazing and groundbreaking. So you can see already how humorous you can go because it's an absurd thing to say in front of a room full of strangers, but that could be your overall character. Or you could go the opposite way and be a political act that is so far out there that no one's going to listen to and everyone's going to be even more divided after you talk. I don't care what conclusion you come to as long as you have an overall type of person you are in mind. But even if you're an absurd actor, if you're a deadpan act, you can still have an overall message of what your actual person on stage is all about, rather than just about the smaller story. What is the overall message? That's tip number 1. Let's move on to tip number 2. Add a callback into your stand-up comedy set. Callbacks are the most common used tool in stand-up comedy, and for good reason. They do a lot of things. One being you can get a lot more material out of each topic if you report back to it later on in the set, because you're not boring people with just staying on the same topic all the time. Instead, you're switching it up as often as possible onto multiple topics and sometimes too many topics, and even that alone is fun in itself. But you should have a callback within your set, regardless if you're only performing for 5 minutes or if you're performing for a full hour. You should have as many callbacks in your set as possible because it keeps the audience remembering where they've come from during your set, and it ties everything up in such a neat package and shows that you're not just going through the topics. Instead, there's structure to it and you're going to be going back and forth. And just because you reach a conclusion to one topic, it doesn't mean that it's final and that it's over. You can still report back to it through a callback and perhaps come back to that topic from an entirely different point of view. So by adding callbacks to your set, you will naturally begin to see all of the different possibilities and tangents and different meanings and different categories that your original topics can go to by simply just adding a callback. Just in case there's people watching this video who aren't aware of what a callback is, it's very simply this. A callback is, the most basic example I can give is if you have topic A and you have topic B and you're going to discuss both topics. Well, you finish A maybe a little bit sooner than you normally would, because you're going to take the last piece of information and the punchline along with it, and you're going to slide it in anywhere you see fit into section B. So when the audience thinks you're finished talking about this topic and you've moved on to this one, that all of a sudden they're brought back. But The difference is now this entire piece of material is connected to the first piece of material in whatever creative, funny way you can come up with. That is the quickest example I can give of what a callback is. I have other videos on it. There are plenty of other videos from other channels on YouTube that you can find more information out. There are written articles on it. Go and study callbacks and add them into your set regardless of how long your set is. Here is number 3. This one is so important, and I tell myself this all the time, and I will continue to do so, and it is one of the things that really shaped me as a performer. And I know from talking to many other performers that it has made them the performers they are too, and it's very simply this. It's 2 words. It's slow down. Now, you might be thinking, I don't know your style, and I don't know who's watching the video, so how can I tell you to slow down? You might be already a very slow-paced act. Now, I don't care if the tempo of your voice on stage is really slow, but you could still do with slowing down. Even if you're already a deadpan, slow-paced act, you could still do it slowing down. Even if it's only a fraction of a second, slow down a little bit and pay more attention to those silent moments. Take a little longer getting into the next sentence. Now, if you're a really quick act, you could probably do it slowing down quite a lot. The most common mistake beginners have is that they are all going that little bit too fast. Even the ones that are a little more experienced, who are more confident on stage, they are still going that little bit too fast. They are going into the jokes a little too quick and not allowing the momentum of a laugh to build up to as high as it could possibly be. When you deliver a joke, you should allow the people the appropriate amount of time, depending on how funny you think that joke is. If you think it's an incredibly strong joke in your set, allow them the time for everyone to catch up and the laugh to become as loud as it can possibly become. And that's not when you start talking. You want to start talking just at the first moment that laugh starts to dip off. Because maybe the first 2 words or 1 word you say after that happens won't be heard. But then what will happen is people will naturally stop laughing and try and listen to the next piece of material you have, rather than you speaking a little too early and breaking that moment just before the laughs get too loud and they start to listen before they have a chance to really get the volume of the entire laugh from the entire group up to where it needs to be. So when you go on stage, take the extra fraction of a second to start talking for the first time. Take the extra fraction of a second in the silence throughout your information in which you're giving the audience, and allow that tension to build a little bit. And then when you finally do crush the tension with a great punchline, allow them to laugh that little bit longer. And while you're speaking on stage, pay attention to the words. I know we all learn the words off, and when you learn the words off, it's very easy to go on and focus on your hands and the microphone and the people in the front row and how far can you see in the room with the lights on the stage, and all these things come into our mind, and because we've learned off our words, they just flow naturally. Sometimes if they flow naturally, certainly if you're saying them at home out loud, often to rehearse, well, you say them too fast on stage, even if you think you are slowing down a little bit. So those are my top 3 tips in which you can bring into your set and make it that little bit better. I guarantee you, if you bring all 3 of those into your set and you write in your journal an overall point of view of what your performer and character and comic person is going to be about, then that is in your mind every time you go to write, so your writing always comes from the correct point of view. And if you add callbacks into your set, regardless of how long your set is, it will be a lot of fun. It will add lots of fresh and unique places that your set will go, and it will really benefit your comedic writing. And finally, of course, you've got to slow down. I don't care how slow you think you're already going, you can go that fraction of a second even slower, and watch how the audience open up and listen to what you are saying that little bit more. And if we have an audience that's listening to what we were saying, we have an audience who's going to laugh at the message behind what we say. That'll do it for this video. See you in the next one.